To conclude, therefore, since this prelacy in the article, this many-headed monster of archbishops, bishops, their chancellors and commissaries, deans and chapters, archdeacons, and all other ecclesiastical officers depending on that hierarchy, is the beast wherewith we fight in this covenant, which hath been found so destructive to church and state. Let us not fear to take this sword of the covenant of God into our hands, and say to this enemy of Christ, as Samuel said once to Agag, at what time he said within himself, quote, "Surely the bitterness of death is past," unquote. Quote, "As thy sword hath made women childless, so shall thy mother be childless among women," unquote. So hath prelacy flattered itself, finding such a party to stand up on its side among the rotten lords and commons, the debauched gentry, and abased people of the kingdom. Quote, "Surely the bitterness of death is past," unquote. Quote, "I sit as a queen, and shall not know widowhood or loss of children," unquote. In the midst of this security and pride, the infallible forerunners of her downfall, let us call her forth and say, as thy sword, prelacy, hath made many women childless, many a faithful minister peopleless, houseless, and libertyless, their wives husbandless, their children and their congregations fatherless and pastorless and guideless, so thy mother, papacy, shall be made childless among harlots, your dioceses bishopless, and your sees lordless, and your places shall know you no more. Come, my brethren, I say, and fear not to take this Agag, prelacy, not the prelates, and hew it in pieces before the Lord. Objection number 4. A fourth and main objection that troubles many is that in the following article there are diverse things of another nature that should fall within the compass of such a covenant, as that which the text holds forth, quote, "to join ourselves to the Lord," unquote. There be state matters, and such too, as are full of doubt, and perhaps of danger, to be sworn unto. I shall answer first the general charge, and then some of the particulars, which are most material. In general I answer, there is nothing in the body of this covenant which is not either purely religious, or which lies not in a tendency to religion, conducing to the securing and promoting thereof. And as, in the expounding the commandments, divines take this rule, that that command which forbids a sin forbids also all the conducibles and provocations to that sin, all the tendencies to it, and that command which enjoins a duty enjoins all the mediums and advancers to that duty. Circumstances fall within the latitude of the command. So in religious covenants. Not only those things which are of the substance and integrals of religion, but even the collaterals and subserviencies that tend either to the establishing or advancing of religion may justly be admitted within the verge and pale of the covenant. The cities of refuge had their suburbs appointed by God, as well as their habitations, and even they also were counted holy. The rights and privileges of the Parliament and the liberties of the kingdom, mentioned in the third article, they are the suburbs of the gospel, and an inheritance bequeathed by God to nations and kingdoms, and, under that notion, holy. Concerning which a people may lawfully reply to the unjust demands of emperors, kings, or states, as Nathan once to Ahab, when demanded to yield up his vineyard to his majesty, quote, "God forbid that I should give the inheritance of my father," unquote. These be the outworks of religion, the lines of communication, as I may so say, for the defense of the city, which the prelates well knew, and therefore you see, it was their great design first, by policy to have surprised, and, when that would not do, then by main strength of battle to storm these outworks, well knowing that if they once had won these, they should quickly be masters also of the holy city, religion itself, and do what they listed. And therefore the securing of these must of necessity be taken into the same counsels and covenant with religion itself. This premised in general, we shall easily and apace satisfy the particular scruples and queries as I go. Number 1. Scruple. The most part that swear this covenant are in a great degree, if not totally, ignorant what the rights and privileges of the Parliament and the liberties of the kingdoms are, and how can they then swear to maintain they know not what? Number 1. By the same argument, no man, or very few, might lawfully swear to maintain the king's prerogatives in the paths of allegiance and supremacy, nor the king himself swear to maintain the liberties of the subject, as he doth in his oath at his coronation. Number 2. There is hardly any person so ignorant but knows there are privileges belonging to the parliaments and liberties belonging to the subject. Number 3, and that it is the duty of every subject, according to his place and power, to maintain these, so that, in taking of this covenant, we swear to do no more than our duty binds us to, in which there is no danger, though we do not in every point know how far that duty extends, in every branch and several thereof. Number 4, in swearing to do my duty, whether to God or man, if I be ignorant of many particulars, I oblige myself to these 2 things. First, to use the best means to inform myself of the particulars. Secondly, to conform myself to what I am informed to be my duty, which yet in the case in hand doth admit of a further latitude, namely, that which lies in the very word and letter of this article, as in most of the rest, in our several vocations, which doth not bind every one to the same degree of knowledge, nor the same way of preservation. As, for example, I do not conceive every magistrate is bound to know so much, no, nor to endeavour to know so much, as Parliament men, nor every member of Parliament so much as judges, nor ministers so much as the lawyers, nor ordinary people so much as ministers, nor servants so much as masters, nor all to preserve them the same way, Parliament men by demanding them, lawyers by pleading, judges by giving the sense and mind of the law, ministers by preaching, magistrates by defending, people by assisting, praying, yielding obedience. All, if the exigencies arise so high, and the state call for it, by engaging their estates and lives, in case they be invaded by an unlawful power. And in case of ignorance, the thing we bind ourselves to is this, that if at any time any particular shall be in question, what the Parliament shall make appear to be their right or liberty of the subject, we promise to contribute such assistance for the preservation or reparation thereof, as the nature of the thing and wisdom of the state shall call for at our hands in our several places. Number 2, scruple. But some are offended, while they conceive in the same article that the clause wherein we swear the preservation and defence of the king's person and authority doth lie under some restraint. By that limitation, in the preservation and defence of the true religion, and the liberties of the kingdom. To which we reply, number 1, it maintains him as far as he is a king. He may be a man, but sure no king, without the lists and verge of religion and laws. It be religion and laws that make him a king. Number 2, it maintains his person and estate as far as his majesty himself doth desire and expect to be defended. For sure his justice cannot desire to be defended against, but in the preservation of religion and laws, and his wisdom cannot expect it, since he cannot believe that they will make conscience of defending his person, who make no conscience of preserving religion and the laws. I mean, when the ruin of his person and authority may advance their own cursed designs. They that, for their ends, will defend his person and authority against religion and liberties of the kingdom, will with the same conscience defend their own ends against his person and authority, when they have power in their hands. The Lord deliver his majesty from such defenders, by what names or titles soever they be called. Number 3, who doubts but that religion and laws, wherein the rights and liberties of kingdoms are bound up, are the best security of the persons and authority of kings and governors. And the while kings will defend these will defend kings. It being impossible that princes should suffer violence or indignity while they are within the munition of religion and laws, or if the prince suffer, these must of necessity suffer with him. Number 4, I make a question whether this limitation lie any more upon the defence of the king's person and authority than it doth upon the rights and privileges of parliaments and the liberties of the kingdom, since there is no point to stop in the article to appropriate it more to the defence of the king's person and authority than to the preservation of the rights and privileges of the parliaments and the liberties of the kingdoms. Number 5, and lastly, this clause is not to be understood exclusive, as excluding all other cases wherein the kingdoms stand bound to preserve his majesty's person and authority, but only as expressing that case wherein the safety of his person and authority doth most highly concern both king and kingdoms, especially at such a time as this, when both are so furiously and implacably encountered by a malignant army of desperate parricides, papists, and their prelatical party. These objections answered and difficulties removed, we proceed to the examining of the rest of the particulars in the following article. The discovery of incendiaries or malignants that have been or shall be, to which the 4th article binds us. Doth it not lie also in a necessary tendency to the securing and preserving of this covenant inviolable with the Most High God in point of reformation? For can we hope a thorough reformation according to the mind of Christ, if opposers of reformation may escape scot-free, undiscovered, and unpunished? Or can we indeed love or promote a reformation, and in the meantime countenance or conceal the enemies of it? This is clear, yet it wants not a scruple, and that peradventure which may trouble a sincere heart. Objection. It is this: having once taken this oath, if we hear a friend or brother, yea, perhaps a father, a husband, or a wife, let fall a word of dislike of the Parliament or Assembly's proceedings in either kingdom, or that discovers another judgment or opinion, or a word of passion unadvisedly uttered, and do not presently discover and complain of it, we put upon ourselves the guilt or danger of perjury, which will be a mighty snare to thousands of well-affected people. To which I answer, number 1. The objection lays the case much more narrow than the words of the article, which distinguisheth the incendiary or malignant, which is to be discovered by a threefold character or note of malignity. First, hindering the reformation of religion. Secondly, dividing the king from his people, or one kingdom from another. Thirdly, making any faction or parties amongst the people, contrary to the league and covenant. Now every dislike of some passage in Parliament or Assembly's proceedings, every dissent in judgment and opinion, every rash word or censure that may possibly be let fall through passion and inadvertency, will not amount to so high a degree of malignity as is here expressed, nor consequently bring one within the compass of this oath and covenant. A suitable and seasonable caution or conviction may suffice in such a case. Number 2. But suppose the malignity to arise to that height here expressed in any of the branches thereof. I do not conceive the first work this oath of God binds us to is to make a judicial discovery thereof, while, without controversy, our Saviour's rule of dealing with our brethren in cases of offense is not here excluded, which is, number 1, to see what personal admonition will do, which, toward a superior, as husband, parent, master, or the like, must be managed with all wisdom and reverence. If they hear us, we have made a good day's work of it. We have gained our brother. If not, then the rule directs us yet, number 2, in the second place, to take with us 2 or 3 more. If they do the deed, thou mayest sit down with peace and thankfulness. Third, if, after all this, the party shall persist in destructive practices to hinder reformation, to divide the king from his people, or one kingdom from another, or lastly to make factions or parties among the people, be it the man of thine house, the husband of thy youth, the wife of thy bosom, the son of thy loins, quote, Levi must know neither father nor mother, unquote. Private relations must give way to public safety. Thou must with all faithfulness endeavor the discovery of thine, quote, I must not pity nor spare, unquote. It is a case long since stated by God himself, and when complaint is made to any person in authority, the plaintiff is discharged and the matter rests upon the hands of authority, provided, notwithstanding, that there be, in the use of all the former means, that latitude allowed which the Apostle gives in case of heresy, quote, a first and second admonition, unquote. This course, not only the rule of our Savior in general, but the very words of the covenant itself, doth allow. For though the clause be placed in the 6th article, yet it hath reference to all, that is, quote, what we are not able ourselves to suppress or overcome, we shall reveal and make known, unquote. So that, if the malignity fall within our own or our friends' ability to conquer, we have discharged our duty to God and the kingdoms, and may sit down with comfort in our bosoms.